yesterday with, yesterday, day before with Pat, I just suddenly remembered something about that period, and I couldn't think of the name of that, the term isorhythmic. I couldn't think of the name of that. But I suddenly remembered somebody who wrote music using something that was kind of like, serial writing. And of course, immediately when I thought of that, I made the connection because you brought that up in the class. And so I Googled him, Fay, and then it talked about he was the one that used that device. And then I made sure I understood it correctly again, got out my music. It was a guy named Willie Apple. He wrote the real famous dictionary of music that was used for years by music students all over the United States. And then it has that term, and it told me again what it was. And I said, boy, I got to send this down. That's just incredible, isn't it? We're talking 14th century.
Yeah, it was commissioned for the ordination of a pope.
That's right. Yeah, you looked that up. Hey, Alan, I can only see the bottom 2/3 of your face. Maybe, yeah, there I can. There we go. Okay. It's not that we need to anymore, but I like your face, so.
Well, one last comment, and then I'll be quiet for the rest of the class. But when I got into that little bit of melancholy from that motet, I went to an old Keith Jarrett thing that I remembered of Danny Boy, where he plays solo. And I had forgotten, just because I don't see him live. I just see him through recordings. Yep. And his face is like a rubber mask. And he expresses the music just a slight skosh before he plays.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely gorgeous. I forgot. He just stands right up from the piano bench, and he really, sometimes he plays with his arms straight out, elbows locked. Yeah. Yeah. And this is on a slow ballad.
I think that's how he does it.
It is how he does it, and his face is interesting because he shows pain in his face when all of a sudden all these minor chords come traveling through his fingers. So it's wonderful.
I recorded that.
You did, actually.
Yes, it's on this CD.
It is.
Red.
Yep.
Yeah, because I've always loved that song. So I put it on this one. I'll tell the class more about 2 CDs as we go along. I don't know what time it is, Leah. I don't know if it's time to start or how many people we got on board, or you tell me.
Tom, it is time to start. It's 2 o'clock. I wanted to make a short announcement that everyone will need to update their Zoom program before this Saturday so that you can attend classes when we start back up in July. And
how do they do that?
Hopefully it will ask you if you want to update when you close, or there will be a toggle wheel in the corner of your application, and if you click on that, it will give you some other settings you can go to, and update will be one of those.
Okay, or so just pay attention to update prompts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and you go ahead with your announcement, Leah. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you to Tom. I'm not going to be here for the end of the meeting, so y'all have to also do that again at the end. But Tom was our very first pioneer into online learning, and he's helped us figure out how to do it. I had never heard of Zoom before we did this, and he was a brave guinea pig and letting us experiment with different applications and different tablets and devices, and just placement and Wi-Fi and microphones. And he's just been a real trooper, and an adventurous spirit, and in addition to being so talented and kind. So I just wanted to say thank you for making this a meaningful experience for participants and staff, Tom. Heartfelt thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, and this is his last class for the spring, but he's not going away for too long, so we'll get him back. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I hope to be back, and assuming the Live Quest is up, and they plan to be in July. I plan to be back for 4 weeks, and we'll take it from there and see what happens after that. Okay, start. Thank you, Leah. Thank you. Now, I asked one thing of all. I don't know how many of you are joining me today. Let me switch my camera here. Yeah. Okay. I have a request for all of you who are here today, or who aren't here today, but perhaps watch this later on Facebook. One request of you is that you send in some message form, send in a word or two about this class, and you can address 2 questions I have. You can just make a comment on what you enjoyed about it, what you liked about it, what you would, if you were to take it again, the next class will be different. The kinds of things I'm presently doing that you would like me to continue doing, and then any suggestions that you might have regarding the class. A pianist, a topic, a composer, a topic, any suggestions. And then maybe suggestions that say, it'd be better if you do less of this. That's fine. Send them to L. Greenfield at LifeQuest of Arkansas.org. Now, if I got that right, Leah, I think she's still on, or I know Gina is, then you'll have to correct me.
You got
But
it right, and those questions and her email address are in the chat box for people to refer to.
That's good. So I'd appreciate that from you class members. You've been a wonderful class. Trying this out too, you're brave. But now we learned how to do it. And that's really good. And I ordered the microphone, and the only reason I kept talking to y'all about a microphone, oh, it's here. I've had it for weeks, but I have to have a special cord to connect it to my device here. And they assured me, of course, oh, it'll be here about a week after the microphone. But, you know, we've gone the whole class, 8 weeks and 9 weeks actually, and or I don't know, 8. And I got an email about 3 days ago saying it's now been shipped. Well, of course, it's not here for the lesson. So I'm expecting it here for the summer, July, and I'll test it out sometime with Gina or something in between. I want to make an advertisement now and then at the end of the class. If you like the music today, I have presently 2 CDs that are, I've done other CDs, but there are 2 that are still out. The other ones were sold out. And they are, and you can get both of them or one of them by simply, you can, if you don't have my email address or phone number, you can contact Leah at that L. Greenfield email address. And she will send me your name, and you need to send, of course, your street address. They're $5 each. I'll send them to you, and then you can, in some way, we'll work out a way you can send a check. If you don't send a check, won't even know. Big deal. In fact, just send it to Life. Let's make your check out to LifeQuest. Yes, let's do it that way. And so you pay LifeQuest $5, or if you buy both, $10. Make your check out to LifeQuest, but down at the bottom, put that, you know, Tom Cox, that you were in my class. Put that down there. So Leah will keep a record of that. And so I'll know who ordered a CD, but you'll need to send her your address so I can send one of these to you, or both of them. Now, one CD is called Red, and that's because there's a tune on here that I wrote called Red. And on this CD, there's a lot of my own music, but I also have a couple of standards. One that's called, some of you may know or may not, I Fall in Love Too Easily. And I have Danny Boy. I have a great tune that I'll probably play this summer by Billy Strayhorn. It's called Star-Crossed Lovers. It's a beautiful ballad. The rest of the material, most of the rest of the material is mine. And there is the samba that I played, Samba e Amor, by Chico Baruch, is on here. The next CD is called A Journey Home. On it, I have, For All We Know, that's a standard. I have a Keith Jarrett tune called Prism. Most of the rest of the music are my tunes. So you'll get to hear those. There's much variety. This summer, I plan to play more of my own music in those 4-week term that meets in July. Okay, so you have a CD called Red, and then a CD called The Journey Home. For $10, you can get both. Pretty good deal. And today, the theme for the day is this. It's who are our teachers in life? Who have been some of your teachers? I mean, teaching you how to be the person you are. Teaching you how to, whatever the things you love to do are. I'll just pick something. Let's say you make shawls, knit. Who has influenced you, in the making of those. So for me, I'm thinking right now of persons that have been my teachers in music. And I'm thinking, of course, a couple of people that I studied under, et cetera, personally. But so many of my teachers have been persons that I never got to meet, or I got to meet, but they really taught me through their recordings, things of that nature. And so I think today we keep in mind who have been our teachers that helped us become who we are. And who do we look to now, or where do we look now still that inspires us? Persons who inspire us in some way. And this COVID time has been a good time to do that, I think. And I think we're still going to be in it during the summer. And so if you come aboard, I don't have time to hear your answers today, but that's what I want you to think about. I don't think I'll have time at the end of the class. We'll see. One of my teachers in music has been Keith Jarrett. Bill Evans was, and some of you know that, and you could hear that in something I played. Keith Jarrett has been a really good teacher for me. Never met him, but I have a lot of his recordings, and I've just listened to them many, many times, and I learned by listening to a lot of different things he does. So the first song I'm going to start with is a tune of mine, and it's called Tribute. And it is my tribute to Keith Jarrett. And what I did was write something that I thought was similar to some of the tunes that he was writing during the period of time where he had this band that was from one of those Norwegian countries. They never really gave that band a name. They mostly recorded. But Jan Gabarek was the tenor player in that band. And they made 2 or 3 CDs that are wonderful. And they wrote some really good, he wrote some really beautiful tunes. It was a change in his style at that time. And so I use that kind of style to write this tune that's called Tribute. So I want you to pay attention to it in terms of its form and in terms of its melody. Maybe there's more than one melody. Okay, it's a little longer than most tunes. I will probably just improvise a little on it so we have time for the other 2 pieces of material that I want to touch on. Tribute to Keith. Okay, I have a audience here at my home of my wife who's just clapping. All right, let's talk about the music a little bit. So tell me some of the things you heard that were going on, using your own language here. About maybe you could give a name, its style, or it reminded you of something, or anything you picked up on the melody or the harmonies, the form, or anything, because it had a lot of things in it. I'm waiting. I'll call you by name if you're not careful. All right, Rena, are you talking? Unmute your mic, please.
Okay, okay.
I think I unmuted you, Rena. You're okay. Go ahead and talk.
Okay, thanks. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Part of it sounded kind of like a dance tune, like maybe a folk dance or something bouncy like that. How it sounded to me.
Yeah. It sounds like it kind of made you want to move.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something you could move to easily. Yeah, it made your body, you felt it in your body. It was very soma-like. I think it is. I think it definitely is. I mean, when I play that tune inside, when I'm really warmed up and play that tune, I tend to move around on the piano bench a little bit too. You know, I'm fairly warmed up, but I'm not totally warmed up enough to really play some of the things I would like to play in that tune that usually I did on the recording. No, I didn't record that tune. Sorry.
Do you think we should we have the class at midnight instead?
You know me. That's right. I
That's
am
me too.
Yeah, you're like that too. Yeah.
Midnight owl. Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else? Other a thought or a comment? Alan, Lynn, Sandra. Let me see who else might be on here. There's Cyril.
Jeanette has her microphone unmuted. She'd like to ask you a comment or question.
Yeah, there you are. Okay.
Hey there. Hey. Well, I was just going to mention that I think it's a really, really good song. To me, it almost sounded like it could be a good theme from an energetic kind of television show. I mean, a show about people that are doing important things, like maybe a lawyer show or a doctor show or some kind of professional people that are on their way to work. It has a kind of an urban, busy sound to it that I think is really cool. I really liked it. I like it a lot.
Yeah. What I hear in your comment is that it sounds almost narrative or programmatic. That is that the music somehow is telling us a story. It's setting a scene for something. And so you actually saw, maybe not clearly, maybe very clearly, but you saw a possible TV program or something.
Yeah.
You know, in an urban environment. So it began to take on the essence of a story for you, although maybe very clearly, or maybe the more you listen to it, that it get it even clearer for you. But it carried that kind of what we call programmatic or narrative element to it.
Mm-hmm.
It does for me too. Alan.
Tom, one of the interesting things to me about it is it seemed like it's, as the piece evolved, it became very difficult to play. And what I mean by that is the melody, the short theme of it, the 4-measure theme is like 7/8 notes of introduction with 8th rest at the beginning, leading to 3 whole note chordal phrase, things. But the left hand, that counter rhythm was driving. It was driving. But that's where it got a little complicated because that rhythm was not constant. It was moving about, syncopating a little bit, and it was changing the energy like crazy. But then when it got hard to play, you started to treat it almost like a fugue. right hand, those 3 chords were turning into something that was really interesting, but the 2 things driving together was cool. I really, really enjoyed it because of the, I don't want to call it the finesse, but the intensity of it was increased because the music was driving itself.
Those are really good observations. I want to talk about that a little bit. Yes, the left hand in the beginning is constantly on a single tone, and we would call that a pedal point, a pedal tone. And it was playing a particular rhythm pattern, and then I would vary that pattern. Left hand is difficult, so I worked on it a lot over years ago and that sort of thing. The basic pattern is and that comes out of, hang on a second. So it's on the beat of the, I mean, it's an octave, and so those notes, the low note or the high note, sometimes the note happens twice before it goes to the low note. The low note happens twice before it goes back to the upper note. But constantly you have this going on in the left hand in the first part of the tune. So I keep what I put over the top of it very simple. I'm playing only major chords on the top of it in the beginning. Then I go into a suddenly it breaks out of all that this sort of static, almost static harmony with the bass note being the same over and over. B flat major chord, E flat major chord, but I don't change the bass note. C major chord, but I don't change the bass note. Back to B flat. It starts that harmonic progression again, but I go to the C chord instead of the E flat chord next. Then I go to a little more dissonant chord before I come back to B flat. I go to B up a half step, and I'm back. And so my melody is harmonized is harmonized with that. You're right, it's these little short phrases. So I'm putting in the same chords, harmonizing that melody with those chords.
Tom, before you move on, Cyril also unmuted himself, and so he has a question or comment.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I'm the lightweight of the group. I'm not into all of the intricacies of jazz or anything like that.
It's okay. Sure, Cyril.
An observer. So for me, the way it hit, the way I describe it, had a beat to it. Now, that doesn't mean that what little jazz I listen to doesn't have a beat to it, but it's different. It's usually you're picking up on a theme or a melody or something like that. And so that's the only comment that I had. That's what hit me about it that was different from other pieces on your albums, for example. But that's what hit me. But as I say, I am not.
Oh, that's good. No, I hear you. That's very good.
Amateur hour with this group, I'm it. But you need to have, you need to have the hoi polloi in here. Somebody that.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Those are very good comments. I totally, and you have the perspective of you've heard the music on both. Now, see, you have them. So you're saying it's kind of different from those, and it is. The left hand pattern, which is complicated, comes from in drumming. Drummers have to learn, percussion majors have to learn what are called rudiments to play on the snare drum, because they get translated into all of their instruments. And there are like 10 or 12 basic rudiments. And one of those rudiments is called has a funny name. It's called paradiddle. Paradiddle. And it goes like this. So sometimes my right hand does twice on my knees, and sometimes my left hand does twice on the knees. So it's a pattern that gets reversed. Paradiddle, 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 paradiddle. So my left hand at times is doing that. It's going steady eighth notes, low, high, high, low, high, high, low, back and forth, and then I vary that. So then you got this long note theme over it. Then there's a second section after I stay there a while to completely contrast the whole thing. That pedal tone, just those simple chords. I go into this section where the chords are coming really fast and there's a lot of them. And the melody is now moving fast in eighth notes. And the melody I wrote is long, and it has a variety of, it's harmonically, it has a pattern, then it shifts to a different tonal center and has a pattern. This is all going by very quick. You wouldn't pick up on it the first time. And, but it's totally contrast to the other. And then it breaks out at the end to come right back into this thing. So I'm doing this. The chords are just changing all the time, and there's a melody over that, and that's about 1/3 of this melody. And so the melody almost is intended to almost be like an improvisation, but it is written out. I did improvise later on over that, but this tune is you can't take it all in the first time you hear it. You can just take in whatever you feel about it and whatever you hear. But y'all made some great observations just hearing it once. I can say more about it, but I want to move on. Any other comments? Those are good. Okay. Going to play a tune by Paul McCartney. Probably one you've not heard, maybe. It's called For No One, For No One. If you want to know the lyrics, they're online. And if you could look him up on YouTube, it'd be interesting for you to look it up on YouTube later and hear him playing it. And he plays it fast. I liked it slow. So I've made a ballad out of it. And it's, well, I'll just play it and you'll see. Those guys wrote some great music. So Paul McCartney from the Beatles, this isn't during the Beatles period, this is now, he's on his own. And on YouTube, I found a recording where he's playing the piano, he's on stage, and then there is a band that comes in behind him, but he's got a lot of energy, and he plays it best. Thank you, Robbie. Alan, thank you all. Thank you, Gina. How many of you ever heard that song? I don't see any hands going up. Oh, Jeanette, you have? That's great. Talk to
Yeah.
me, Jeanette.
Now,
Talk to us.
I think you said that it was, I thought you said it was composed kind of post-Beatles, but I could almost swear that there's a song with an identical melody on a Beatles album. I don't know which one, an early
Okay.
Beatles album, but it
You
sounds so
may
very
be-
familiar. It sounds really familiar.
I'll check that out. You may be
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And I could be
I
wrong
will-
too, but it immediately sounded familiar to me. So,
Okay, you may be right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't doubt. I'm gonna check it out. No, so where I first encountered it was I was on YouTube and I was just listening to some Paul McCartney concerts on YouTube because I like his music, and so sometimes I just go check out what he's done. And it was a concert he had done just a few years ago, and so he was playing, and I just made an assumption, and I could easily have been wrong, that it was a new tune of his or something. Because I know he's recorded it in the way he was doing it on stage, you know, fast.
Right,
and,
right.
and
I could be wrong.
I added extra harmonies and stuff.
Exactly, but the basic melody from the very beginning grabbed me and sounded like something very familiar to me. I could be wrong, but I think it may be actually very similar to, if not an actual old.
Yeah,
old
could be.
song.
You know, the melody is remarkably simple. Repeated notes. Octave. Repeating that note. For no one. And it repeats it. Same note. Just same notes. It's just outlining a D flat major chord. And the bridges. I love how it is. And then it's a leap up and then a leap down again. But it's to a lower neighboring tone. Soaring now. Back to the tension note. That was a lower neighbor tone. Back up again. That just held. And then we got the etc. But I reharmonized the last time through it. I threw in some extra.
Just for some history, I'll throw in that it is from the album Revolver from 1966, written by Paul McCartney and credited to Lennon-McCartney.
Revolver.
Google's a great thing. Yep.
Man, isn't that so? That is like, you know, it's so beautiful. I would consider it a standard. You know, it's so gorgeous.
And can I make one comment?
Yeah.
Okay. You said you would consider it a standard. It's such a beautiful song. But one thing I was going to say that just hit me that I wanted to tell you before I forgot, and that is that, and I think I've told you this before, that as much as I enjoy you playing jazz standards, I think one of your best gifts is taking a song like this that is not really a jazz song. I mean, you would not call Paul McCartney a jazz player or composer, but you make the jazz touches and improvisation just makes it into something a whole step. I wouldn't say a whole step better, you know, but maybe better. You take something that's not jazz and take the jazz elements and turn it into something that's just a whole new thing that's really, really cool. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll keep doing that. Yeah. I plan to play Blackbird this summer in the July one, Beatles tune, like that tune. Let me tell you somebody else who's a pianist who does that, and it's just coincidental, but I worked out this tune in the harmonies and stuff and decided it was a ballad, and I had it worked out, and I think that's the first time I've ever played it for anybody just now, but I worked it out over the past year, I guess. And then one of my favorite pianists is Fred Hirsch. Fred Hirsch. You can go online on YouTube. He's on YouTube. For several weeks into COVID, when COVID started and everything was shut down, there were no gigs for musicians. Fred Hirsch started doing 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, at 12 noon Central Standard Time. He came on live from his house, and he would play one song every day, a different song. And he did that for about he did that all the way up until the end of last week. He's still doing something like that, but he was doing it on his Facebook page, and all that stuff is there recorded, and you can listen to it. You go to Facebook and you can look up Fred Hirsch, and on that page there are many videos of other things too, but there are solo piano videos of him playing a single song during this. I mean, for what, 6-7 weeks or something. So it's just a wealth of material. He's a wonderful pianist. So I heard him do this, and I went, he stole that. And, but we were thinking, I find that he and I think alike at times. And some of the harmonies, he did it as a ballad, and some of the harmonies that I was using, he used too. And some of the ones that he used, I didn't use. The kind of way I played around with this longer beginning, that it comes back to just a D flat chord, and then I had to do some motion over it, because that's in the song too. McCartney's letting that, it's an instrumental, he lets it play out for a while, where he makes you wait before he comes back to that melody. And I had picked up on that in the song, and I liked it. And then if you listen to Fred Hirsch, you're going to think, that sounds like me. And you'll think, I got it from him, but I didn't. We didn't get it from each other. It's just there. So I like him because he will take standard tunes and play them. Another musician that does that takes kind of hip hop, funk, rock, pop tunes, rock tunes, really good at it. Brad Meldau, Meldau, Brad Meldau. All right, last tune today. This is a tune that I may have played for some of you before in one of the classes I taught. I don't remember, but I'm going to play it. And it's a Latin tune. It's written by Antonio Carlos Jobim, that famous Brazilian composer I've talked about before, who's probably Brazil's most famous popular music composer. Man, he just written a ton of music. And this tune is called O Grande Amor, O Great Love. And I'm not totally warmed up for this. Because it's all about the left hand. I better make sure I get the tempo right. I don't want to get too fast today because, like I said, I wasn't warmed up. receptive. Thank you very much, all of you. Yes. All right, we just have a few minutes for a comment or two. So, and remember, let me make an announcement first again. Remember that if you want one of these, $5 each. There are 2 CDs of mine, and I have my tunes on them, and some others, and some standards. There's Danny Boy on one of them. And you can get them by sending your request to lgreenfield@lifewest.org, lifewest@arkansas.org. So that was one announcement I make. And I'll send them to you. They're $5 each, and you make your check out to LifeWest. And you send them your address. Be sure you do that. And Leah will forward it to me. I want to thank the staff. I want all of us to thank the staff at LifeQuest for making this possible this semester, okay? So just applaud so they can see you, yes. Because without them, this wouldn't have happened. You know, they worked hard to figure out how to do this and everything. And then they got people to sign up and do it, and you and me. It's great. And so now we do it again in July. And so the staff is just marvelous. I tell you, I worked in universities and professors at Cleveland and Akron, Firestone Conservative Music, and then here at UALR for years. And I've never worked for people like I work with at LifeQuest. They're marvelous. They're smart, and they're kind, and they treat me real good. I like that. Any comments today about, remember to write in your comment too about music. I would appreciate that. Any comments today about this last song? Yeah, go ahead and somebody say something about it.
I have a general one, and it's just, I really love Latin music. I just love it to pieces. But one thing about playing it as piano solo, it's got all the pieces there. If you were to add instruments, you could change the tone and maybe color it a little bit, but it's not, you don't change a thing. The piano has it all.
Yeah, I did it all. Yeah, it took me many years to learn how to do that. Yeah, to get that left hand to be the bass player, which has got to be independent because the rhythms has to be a set pattern, and that pattern can vary. Then in between, you have to put on if you're going to play a bossa nova or a samba faster. In between, you have to put the place where, if it's a normal trio, it would be a guitar in there, where the guitar player plays on the offbeat so much of the time. Then over that, you got to put the melody. And then with that offbeat guitar thing, that's where you got to put part of the chord. And then after I got it going, I loved it, and I've been able to like take it different places. And if I were to play these, I'll say one word about Latin tunes, because I got to play solo piano. I put all those parts in. But if I were playing that song with the trio, I wouldn't play it that way. You'd hear this. Just very simple melodic tune. Because the bass player and the drummer are going to be doing all that other stuff. Then like that, you hear, because the bass player would have the stuff in between where I'm doing.
Yeah.
Comments?
That's where the Tom Cox sound comes in. When you play your part, I'm just going to comment about that. That's my take on you. It sounds like Tom Cox. I've told you that before, but
you've always said that I had a distinctive style.
Yep.
But today you've sort of nailed it down as to what for you that is, where that's found. That's good. I mean, yeah. Well, that's what I've worked on the most. Well, both playing with trios and playing solo piano. I love playing solo piano. I mean, pianist. I grew up as a classical trained, so we're used to playing solo piano.
Well, since we're singing Tom's praises here, I'll also point out that, as he knows, I'm a big time Keith Jarrett fan, but I was always a Keith Jarrett solo fan until I heard Tom play some of Jarrett's trio stuff at Afterthought one weekend and thought, I gotta go listen to Jarrett's trio.
Suddenly, we lost you. But I did on my, but I hope they can still hear you.
Well, yeah, but I mean, what I was saying,
Got you now. Go ahead.
yeah, the fun of hearing trios with Tom Cox is that I didn't realize how much you were good at trios until I heard you at Afterthought, and then because I was such a Keith Jarrett fan, I went out and listened to his trios afterwards.
Yeah, that's great that sent you there. Yes, he's a great place to go to. Yeah, trio playing is completely different, and I've had to work on that too. You know, in order to get the sound I wanted with the trio. You know what I want the piano to be doing, but it's very different. And you on one of the albums, I've got a bass player on, and on one of the other albums, both albums I have a bass player, no drummer. And then we're on the second album, on a couple of tunes I've added a drummer, so there's a trio there. But the drummer I have playing very simple because that's the way I wanted it. Whereas at the Live Quest, when I was doing with those tunes and some of mine, I was into a more surging sort of energy at that time, and it'd be more like that tune I've just played called Tribute and some of those other things. So there's some variation there. Good observation, Robbie. Anybody else? This is the last chance. We got to get out of here and let the girls not work overtime. I'm looking for it. All right, I just had a comment from my wife. She said the music is wonderful. Somebody was talking. Anybody?
Go ahead, Roby.
Roby? I'm not picking him up.
Oh, you might have frozen. But we really appreciate you, Tom. If it weren't for instructors stepping up to teach classes, students wouldn't have anyone to come see, no matter how it worked in the office. So we appreciate the instructors and the members coming to see you. And it all is very symbiotic and it works well.
Well, I appreciate it. This means a lot to me too. We musicians, we love to perform. And I'm at a time in my life when everything just comes together musically. I'm also at a time in my life when I'm called on to be a caregiver to my wife and here in the home. So I'm in the home a lot. And COVID has made it pretty difficult. But then we've adjusted like the rest of us. That's what I talked at the beginning about, one of the things about, I think Leah came up with the term, how do we do jazz during COVID, Look, improvise, know the fundamentals, improvise to get what we need. And I think all of us you must have done a great job because you keep showing up, all of you in here, So I think we got to do it a while longer. So stay safe. We are too. And I look forward to seeing you again in July. If you would like, I'd love for you to. And I look forward to your comments. It's been a great, y'all are very good class. It's been wonderful.
Thank you very much. I think that makes us all jazz players, our adaptability. So thank you very much.
Hey, Tom, do you know where you're headed in the next class?
What?
Do you know where you're headed?
I mean, I can't hear you, Alan. Say it again.
I said, do you know where you're headed for the next class?
No, I don't. And I'm open to suggestions. I want to play some more of my own music, but I don't want to make the whole course that. And I don't